I think sci-fi is one of the only genres in which creators should be encouraged to go balls out bonkers. In any other genre, if you go too far, it'll be alienating and too niche. But in sci-fi, and in particular Annihilation, the weirdness enhances the plot and its themes. And if we're talking themes, Annihilation is primed to the brim with them. In recent sci-fi, I've noticed there's a developing trend, which is the idea that science's capabilities are so endless and so filled with hope that science almost becomes a religion to the scientist characters and the audience. Annihilation, however, takes a more cautioned approach. I would lump films like Interstellar and Arrival together as portraying religious experiences in which advances in science were so fantastical and optimistic that it's almost proof of a higher being's power being utilised to create such advancements. Annihilation is a much more cynical film, but only because it deals with a more aggressive and scary idea, that science is so unknowable and ever-expanding that there will be a problem that will eventually arrive that is so out of our sphere of knowledge that there's all we can do but lie down and accept defeat. That's the opening of our story, in which a meteorite has crashed into Earth, creating a large bubble that is ever expanding. What causes the bubble is still unknown, and anyone who enters the ever-increasing bubble will eventually turn crazy. This Lovecraftian idea of venturing into the terrifying unknown is done through the scope of science instead of fantasy. The great diversity of the main characters all being female is dealt with in a smart yet cynical fashion. Why are a group of female scientists being sent in? It's because they've sent literally everyone else first and none of them have come out alive, so they're throwing everything at the bubble before the whole of Earth gets eaten up in this bubble of madness. Natalie Portman, who in the books is apparently Asian, I'll quickly jump in right now before you say this film has been whitewashed. I believe the director, Alex Garland, who said that he only read the first book this film is based on. Apparently the character's race wasn't established in the first book. I believe Alex, despite some cynical calls saying this is a sci-fi film that wouldn't have been funded without a famous white woman being cast. Like my belief that George Harrison subconsciously copied He's So Fine instead of outright copying it, I believe Alex because, like the film, he seems genuine and thoughtful about his creation. But what's in the bubble? Natalie Portman, Tessa Thompson, Jennifer Jason Leigh and Gina Rodriguez go in the bubble with the vibe being that this is essentially a suicide mission. But these are rough, hard-edged characters. They all seem pretty chill with the idea that this is incredibly dangerous. If they make it out, that's great, but if they die trying to find out what happened, at least they'll be discovering what's going on in the rainbow bubble. What they find is reality, particularly biology, is been rapidly evolving when the bubble touches it. So we discover crazy forests, massive crocodiles, bears that can mimic humans, and eventually the alien itself. It seems the reason people haven't escaped the bubble is because their own biology is changing once they enter. They lose their memory, become paranoid, or their stomach turns into huge squiggly worms. Considering everyone is experiencing their bodies changing amongst the frightful unknown, there's unexpected hope in bizarre places. It's established Tessa Thompson's character has full-on intensive depression. She later becomes almost at peace with her body changing into plants. If she has been cursed with every decision she makes not being personally worth anything, any kind of change to her psyche would be a positive one. She's literally turning into flowers at the end and she's chill with it. Out of all the deaths these characters receive, that's an oddly calm one. And connecting it to the themes of the film, biological change is presented in neutral tones, positive for some, negative in others, and just nothing for everyone else. Once we see what the asteroid has brung, do we understand why this bubble is affecting everyone this way. The alien is attempting to copy everything it comes into contact with in order to try and understand what planet it is landed on. The alien has difficulty understanding how it goes about using its ability and how it's affecting people on Earth. Once it understands that it's being viewed as a threat on Earth, it immediately retracts the bubble and everything it's affected and allows itself to become defeated, seeking refuge with Natalie Portman's character because it's assimilated as her husband, in the most well-intentioned way possible. But until then, I believe it mimics, heightens and changes the matter around it, not in a negative or positive way. It simply is doing what it understands. I presented this plot in an extremely literal way, but the film rolls over you like a legend that happened long ago, passed on by generations. What happened, and there's no way to attack or defend any decision that was made. I mentioned religion in regards to science fiction early on, as I believe this is the film that deals with the alien unknown as peacefully and as zen as possible. It might be the first agnostic sci-fi film. It presents the cosmic otherness as being so far beyond human comprehension that it's barely worth engaging with because it's so far off in the distance. Life, flora and fauna evolve over time when they interact with each other. There's no malice or love. It's simply the world, life and the universe at work. This is a cosmic, thoughtful film that deals with the unknown in brutally realistic ways, as well as cosmically balls-out weird ways. A great step forward for science fiction and for film. Netflix bought it in international markets after Paramount abandoned it, but it fully deserves a sequel. I'd love to see the consequences of this pseudo-disaster in this world. 9 out of 10.